Whew, okay, bear with me, because now we're going to actually finish writing our callback function. And before we do, we got to know what it is we want to do again. And remember how the for each is a loop, meaning we need to know how much we need to loop, otherwise it's just going to go indefinitely. In our example, we've defined an array with 3 items: milk, honey, and sugar. So the first thing is, how do we access this? And the most obvious answer is to use the this keyword. But what will this refer to? Easiest way, again, is just to console log it out. I'll show you a few ways to test what this is, but this is the most intuitive way. And let's see what it is. So let's clear the console and let's run. We've console logged this to the screen, and this is the array. We can see that milk, honey, and sugar, and it contains 3 items. So that's cool. We know that. Another way to check what this is, and let's define it in a variable. Let's say let's just call it length, len for length, equals this length. And what we can do, especially, and this is what's fun when working in the sources tab with our own file, we can put a breakpoint here. And what you can do then is you can run this function. So let's run it. Sorry, let's refresh first, clear the console, and now let's put a breakpoint here and let's run it. What it's going to do is it's going to stop our code at this point. And what's interesting here and where you want to look at is this scope section within DevTools. And you can see that len is currently undefined, right? Because we've paused it before it's executed this line. But as soon as we step over and we execute this line, there you go. Len is equal to 3. So we can see here that this is pointing to the array. And even if I hover over it, this is how cool DevTools is. It shows you what this is referring to. So that's why we can access the inbuilt length method on this array. Awesome, right? Okay, so we've established that. We've got the length property. Let's remove that breakpoint. And let's just continue to execute our code. And we're all done and dusted. The final leg is to loop through our array. And of course, we can just use the traditional for loop. Variable I starts at 0. And we're going to apply this loop as long as I is less than length. And each time it iterates through this function, we're going to increase I by 1. We know this. This is the standard for loop that we all know and love. And now what we're wanting to do is define our callback function goes here. And remember what arguments our callback function took? That's right, it takes 3 arguments. So we're going to call our callback function and we are going to give it 3 arguments. The 3 arguments are the item, which is the array, and we're going to access the actual item, so we have to pass in the index number. The second argument is the index itself. And the third argument, remember how I said we don't really need it, but we can in this instance, just for completeness sake, we have to add this. We have to actually pass in the array itself. How cool is this? We're pretty much done now. So what happens is we can use this forEach method. We remember that the function takes 3 arguments, the item, the index, and we just called it argument this. And now we can do things with them as we please. In our instance, let's just console log the item, the index, and arg this, just so you can see that it is working as expected. Let's run this function. There you go. We've just created our own polyfill, and it's working as expected. How awesome is this? But there's one more thing we have to do, isn't there? Remember when we looked at this, where was it? It was in one of these tabs, wasn't it? Native support for each. Remember this? We had the this keyword in this code. This is the standard inbuilt for each method. And the this referred to the window object, but we could pass in a second argument. In that example we looked at, we passed in the array 1. And we used that for the this keyword. Well, how would we do that here? I want you to think about it, and then I'll show you in the next lecture how to do that.